All right, we are at the National Farm Machine Show in the Bestway Ag booth with Ryan here, and I have some questions for you, Ryan. So, what's so special about your drones?
All right, so yeah, like you said, my name is Ryan with Veteran Drone Services and Bestway Ag, and the drones Bestway Ag is selling right now is the DJI brand. We've been selling that since the very beginning. We've sold other drones as well, but we're still selling DJI drones just like we have from the very beginning. Um, Sets it apart from every other drone in the market is it existed 5 years ago. It existed 3 years ago. It existed 2 years ago. It's been around. I don't have to explain what it is. I don't have to explain where it comes from. It's a Chinese drone, like every other drone out there. Take all the Chinese parts off, none of them are working. What makes it different is the years of data and study that we got on all of its brothers and its predecessors. So we are all very familiar with the way the software works, the way the hardware works, the way it's going to react. We understand the reliability we're going to get out of it. We have a very good understanding of the warranty process and how that's going to work. It's backed by distributors that have been distributing ag equipment for 35 years. It has been manufactured in a place in a way by a company that has been manufactured that way for years. It's just a known dance with the devil, and make sure that you get the job done. Because at the end of the day, it's about making sure the farmer's got the tool in his hand to get it done, and we can support him, not provide him my test subject so he can test and validate my drones on his wallet, and then I'll make something better because of that for him to sell to him again, right? So uh, that's kind of where we're at with it. And that's his
Awesome.
personal opinions,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
This represents Ryan Zeiser and Veteran Drone Services opinions.
yeah. So we're seeing a lot of these companies that are coming to America or coming out of the woodworks, claiming to be American made. What are your thoughts on that?
Kind of some mixed thoughts. One, I'm all about American made. I'm all for it. I love seeing people put the work and time and money and effort, blood, sweat, and tears and research into trying to get an American made drone, and I applaud that effort. I am not doing that. I'm not involved in. I'm not trying to manufacture my own drone and make up my own drone. I am testing and seeing what's out there. But I also believe that if you took Ford, Chevy, and Dodge and said, as of tomorrow, none of your stuff with Chinese parts works, and you've got to go back to the capability you had before Chinese parts, we would all be driving around in 1985 square body Chevrolet trucks. Ford, Chevy, and Dodge, Case, and John Deere, none of them would work if they had no Chinese electronic components on them, which is what the industry is asking of drones. So, to put that in perspective, if these multi billion-dollar, publicly traded, government backed companies could not do that in 5 years, according to them, how is somebody just who's never done manufacturing, just been using a product, just all of a sudden can create one in a very short period of time that is American made? Just, I have a hard time wrapping my brain around that. None of these companies were in manufacturing before. If manufacturing is so easy that you can just pop up a brand new company, start an LLC with your buddies, and start manufacturing agricultural spray drones with American made components and American made software, and there's companies out there with millions of dollars backing them and they haven't figured it out yet, it just raises a red flag with me of the speed at which people are trying to say, I've already created something that is as good as or better than this Chinese drone that's got 15 years of data. I did it in 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
If that was the case, man, we wouldn't be in this situation. It is hard. It is difficult. What the FCC and the FAA and the government is asking is impossible to do in the time period anyone is trying to do with it. So it makes me leery that somebody has just started an LLC with their buddies 30 minutes ago. 4 months later, 5 months later, I've got an American made drone in my hand that I made. No, you don't, and it's not the way the manufacturing and creating a product goes. So I am leery of anybody walking around saying they have an American made drone. I have heard companies say there is a process and this is the long-term plan. um, I won't call him by name, but I have much respect for him. We've done a lot of work together, but he stood on stage at the end user conference and said, this is for 2026, this is for 27, and laid out to 2030 a process of what it's going to take to get it done. That's a guy that knows what he's talking about. He's done his data and research, and he knows what it's going to take. If you did it in 4 months, not buying it, not buying it. So
Gotcha.
that is my opinion on the American-made drones that are popping up at a breakneck pace.
Yeah, I appreciate the insight there. So as of January 2027, we're not going to be seeing any more Chinese drone updates. So what impact does that have on you and your customers?
Okay, so right now, according to the regulation and the ban or whatever you want to call it, the FCC stuff, as of January 2027, there will be no new updates. They've already retracted how hard they came down on this in the beginning, so they've already backpedaled, right? We'll take Parrot drones, for example, no drones outside the US. 2 days later, Parrot drones are okay because our government uses them and they're from France, right? So we've already seen softening and acceptance of potential. We've already seen them accept more documents from DJI to potentially bring in new drones. So they're already accepting that. They left themselves an avenue to backpedal out of anything that was in there. All government paperwork. I spent 24 years in the Army. I understand how the government works. They will always leave them a way to work around something with an exemption or an exception. Look at us flying under a 44807 exemption. The rule is nothing over 55 pounds, but there is an exception as long as you do this. There's always going to be an exception, a way for things to happen. So I would be willing to bet and not afraid to go on record right now that says in March of 2027, I will still update my DJI drones, and we'll see where we're at then.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. So what drones do you currently have out there, and what are your plans to keep those supported even through last year with our part shortages with DJI? And how can you give your customers reassurance?
Well, first of all, was there a part shortage? There wasn't any parts here, but that was because when the tariffs hit and went to 70, 80, 90%, I was going to have to buy that motor from DJI with the tariffs, and it's going to cost, let's say, $1,200. When you were buying that motor for, let's say, $300. We know the tariffs are getting ready to go back down. So when they go back down, I am now sitting on a motor that I paid $1,200 for, and I've got to sell it to you for $300. There was no parts shortage. There was an ordering shortage on all of us in America that was buying the parts that could not stomach selling you a $1,200 motor that's worth the $300 we've been selling it to you for. And we also couldn't be stuck with a bunch of $1,200 motors. The tariffs come back down, and now I got $300 motors that are exactly the same. Which one are you going to buy? There
Yeah.
wasn't a part shortage from a manufacturer. There was a pause in purchasing that had to happen based off of the tariffs and what was going to happen if I purchased at the time of tariff. The scary part was it came around to the tariffs when they landed.
Mhm.
So now you're trying to guess when you can order to guess what the tariffs are going to be when it lands. Have you ever played roulette? They've not even spun the ball yet, but you're trying to guess and bet your money on which color and which number it's going to land on, and then they fling it and you get the tariff price of whatever it is when it lands.
Yep.
If we would have done that, all the prices of all the parts would have skyrocketed, and we would have had to change the industry model of how we're able to support you with parts, and it would have hurt the customers. So for that fact, that's why there wasn't a shortage of parts that were manufactured. There was a shortage of parts purchased, so we didn't land them at a price that was unfair to you, the user.
Mhm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's your plan to keep people supported now from here on out?
I mean, you're always going to have tariff issues as long as you're bringing stuff outside the country. There are companies out there that are making leaps and bounds in getting some electronic stuff done in the United States. There's still a ton of electronic companies out there that are more than capable of doing this that nobody is tapped into yet. Um, but we're going to have parts. We're going to have the drones. Like we have seen it.
Yep.
Like we have seen the government say they're going to do it and then back down. We have seen this many a times. It is almost the point it's too big to fail, right?
Yep.
It's almost too much a part of what we rely on and count on to fail, right? So there's going to turn a point where the American stuff is good enough to do the job at the quality that it needs that still saves the farmer money, right?
Yep.
So until that transition happens, that the American assembled Chinese pieces is good enough that the farmer can get his ROI back on it like he did in the original drones when they first started coming out and he could get his ROI. Until it gets that point, it doesn't have to be as good or better than what we got now. It has to be good enough to cover the ground and give the farmer the ROI that he's expecting to get. So I think these drones are going to keep doing that. I still put enough acres on my original very first drone I ever bought and started with. I still take it out every year and put enough acres on it to pay for it of what I bought it for originally, which is $36,000, my original T40 package. Every year for the last 3 years, I break it out of the box. No matter what drones I have, I go out and I put enough acres on that to pay for itself. So I am not concerned about the drones that we're selling and what we're doing here not being able to be supported through the life of that drone and its life expectancy.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Ryan.
I appreciate it, man. Have a good one.